Mets fans, it is finally here. It's opening day. The New York Mets will play a game that counts today. I'll get you ready for it on this edition of Locked On Mets.
You are Locked On Mets, your daily New York Mets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello to all you amazing Mets fans. You're watching Locked On Mets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Ryan Finkelstein. If you want to find any of my work, follow me on Twitter at FinkelsteinRyan. You can also find some of my writing at justbaseball.com, where I work as the managing editor. Now, this is a glorious day in the baseball calendar. Nothing is better than opening day. The Mets always dominate on opening day. They have a very favorable matchup today. They get to face Patrick Corbin and the Washington Nationals. You have to love that. The game will start at 4 o'clock today with all of those great opening day festivities. For the Mets, it will be a young pitcher by the name of Tyler McGill who gets the opening day nod, more based out of necessity than anything else, as Max Scherzer will not be available until game 2, and Jacob deGrom starts the season on the IL. But this is a really nice moment for Tyler. I mean, last season going in, he was an under the radar prospect. We didn't even expect to see from him last year. He comes up out of nowhere, very DeGrom like when it just came to his entrance into the rotation, and under the radar, the guy that comes out of nowhere and shocks you. And then he has this July where he pitches to a 1.05 ERA that month. They're thinking, oh my God, how good could this guy be? Those expectations have been dampened a bit based on some struggles down the stretch, but this is a pitcher that has a ton of potential, that is getting a really great opportunity here. And I think if you just look back a year ago, for this kid to be sitting in this position to get this nod, it's an awesome story for him. I think he's a pitcher that showed us last year he has the demeanor to rise to the occasion in big moments. I loved how it's kind of underrated, and it's really not important now that the universal DH is in place, but this was a guy that, comes up, hasn't hit since, high school or whatever it is. And last season, he even worked on that side of his game, that by the end of the season, he was the Mets' best hitting pitcher. And to me, that just talks about his work ethic more than anything else. This is a guy that I think will continue to improve. And honestly, the more I think about it with where this rotation stands, I would not be surprised if by the end of the season, Tyler McGill starting a playoff game. I wouldn't be shocked. I could just see it. So that's the matchup for the day. It's McGill versus Corbin, left-handed pitcher for the Nationals. So that could mean JD Davis gets a start in this opening day, maybe as the DH or the third baseman. You could see Jeff McNeil in left if Brandon Nimmo is not good enough to play. We still don't know what's going to happen there, as I'm recording this at 6 o'clock on Wednesday night. So we still have no idea yet if Nimmo will play with that stiff neck. But if he does, then I think we could just see JD Davis as the DH. If Nimmo doesn't play, we might see Jeff McNeil on left and either Davis at third or Robinson Cano at second, with Eduardo Escobar playing the other spot. And the rest of it is the same as we would have expected. Throughout the last couple of weeks leading into the season, we know Pete Alonso, Francisco Lindor, Starling Marte, Mark Canha all going to be out there. Eduardo Escobar, Jeff McNeil, as I just mentioned, and either Tomas Nido or James McCann behind the dish. Before we get into anything else, we're going to have our Mets Legends segment to close out the show today, but I wanted to take a minute to thank Steve Cohen. I don't know about you, but everyone has their own tragic story about being a Mets fan. And for me, born in 1995, I grew up. Mike Piazza was the first team that I knew, the Piazza Ventura Mets. Talked on this show in the past about how when Ron Ventura got traded, I was in a laundromat with my dad. He told me the news. I was bawling my eyes out. That was my first taste of Mets heartbreak. I then learned what it really felt like in 2006 when me and my dad were watching that game. Also, this other buddy of mine from my travel baseball team. We were huddled up in a hotel room. The rest of my team is out enjoying St. Augustine, Florida. And we're watching Mets Cardinals, and we all know how that story ended. And that was really the beginning of my tragic reality as a Mets fan. You fast forward 2015, that magical run. During that time, I changed my major to journalism because I had written an article about Daniel Murphy, why I wanted to see the Mets sign him instead of Yoenis Cespedes in the offseason. Mesmerized, liked what I wrote as a fan shop, brought me on as a writer. And for me, that turned into a career working in sports. And I'm only bringing all this up because I want to take the time here as we're about to start an exciting season with Mets baseball to just thank Steve Cohen for what he's done for this fan base, for what he's done for this franchise. This team's relevant. And when I started this show in 2019, they certainly weren't that. They were trying to be relevant with the Wilpons, but you could never have faith in the organization. You just couldn't. And here I sit, 800 podcast episodes later. We started with no listeners. I had no followers on Twitter. It was just a completely different time in this show's life, in the Mets' life. And the first 2 years of the show was simply me just ripping Jeff Wilpon every chance I got, to now come full circle to be on the precipice of a season where the Mets are favorites. And this could be as bad as they are for the next 5 years. And what I mean by that is this team could only get better and better and better as this money continues to flow from every avenue of this organization. The ballpark's getting nicer. The minor league facilities are getting better. The scouting department is getting infused with cash. There's more money for technology, for player development. This franchise is just at the start of what could be a very special run. And I think we need to make sure we don't take it for granted as Mets fans to consider where this franchise was at the end of the 2020 season when you had this upstart team in 2019 that had a great second half and you thought there was a bright future, and they couldn't even make an expanded playoff field of 16 teams. To now look at this team where, sure, Tyler McGill starting opening day, but Max Scherzer is starting game 2. You have Starling Marte out there, starting in center field if Brandon Nimmo can't go out there. It's a team that has stars all over the place. Francisco Lindor as a starting shortstop. We're about to talk in a minute with Rob Piersall of Mets Legends about some teams of the past. Spoiler alert, I pick Wilmer Flores as my Mets legendary opening day shortstop, because that is how ridiculous things were not that long ago, that this guy who could barely play second base or third base was the starting shortstop. And so now you have the best defensive shortstop in baseball under a $340 million contract that didn't prohibit the Mets from getting Max Scherzer on a $130 million deal. This team is one that you should be thrilled to watch this season. It's going to be a pleasure covering all of it with Locked On Mets Monday through Friday. So I just wanted to take a minute again to thank Mr. Steve Cohen for giving us what is sure to be a season we will never forget. Now in a minute, going to talk about Mets legendary lineups. We're going to go through the past here with Rob Piersall and talk about some names like Wilmer Flores, maybe Bartolo Colon, some others that will put a smile on your face. But before we do that, BetOnline is your number one source for all of your betting needs and sports info. Find all the latest sports developments, including this week's Masters Championship odds, podcasts, and reviews for all the different league action this season. You also have MLB futures. So if you want to bet on the Mets to win the World Series, if you want to bet on Pete Alonso to lead the league in home runs or RBIs, you can find all of that at BetOnline, which is your continued source for all of your upcoming sports wagering information needs, including live betting, esports, and scores. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in the action. BetOnline, where the game starts. It is opening day, a glorious time in Mets baseball. And because it's also a throwback Thursday, I thought this was the perfect time to once again bring on my guy, Rob Piersall of Mets Legends. And we are going to discuss the most legendary opening day players in Mets history. We both have created a lineup here. We're going to go head to head. I think we should go position by position is the easiest way to do this. And then maybe when we'll set up the poll for social media, we can structure our lineups for that. But I think the best way to do this is go position by position. Let's just start with pitchers and work our way through it. Who is your Mets legend opening day starter?
Well, first and foremost, thanks for having me on again, Ryan.
Of course.
It's a pleasure to be back. So I'm curious to see who you picked, because I was mulling between two names specifically, and you probably already know who I'm thinking of, but I went with Dylan G. Dylan G was my opening day starter because he apparently started an opening day for the Mets, and I vaguely remembered that until until I was like thinking about it for this. But Dylan G is my opening day starter.
See, though he was one of the two names that I had too, and he came in second for me. So I'm curious if my number one was your other one, which was Bartolo Colon.
Oh, good one, good one. No, so mine was Mike Pelfrey was my backup.
I have Pelfrey. So I actually had that whole run, 2011 through 2015. It's Pelfrey, Johan. Johan, I think was 4 out of 5 years. So Pelfrey was the one in between there, and then yeah, it was Johan, and then it was John Neese,
Yep.
Dylan G, Bartolo Colon.
Yeah, it's funny. Like 2015, I always for whatever reason think it was Harvey because he was coming back from Tommy John, but it was Bartolo that year. And it just goes to show, right, that like the opening day starter doesn't matter so much. But yeah, Bartolo's a good one.
I'll tell you, I might have to write something for MetsLegends.com because I was thinking yesterday, it doesn't really fit with what I'm doing at Just Baseball. I kind of want to explore if Bartolo Colon is like the best free agent, like starting pitching signing the Mets have had in the past decade. Because
Yeah,
I feel like it
100%.
has to be, right?
Yeah,
Like who else would it be?
yeah, no, it was definitely. I mean, I guess we'll see with Scherzer, but I mean,
Well,
yes,
yeah.
Cologne.
I certainly hope that Scherzer's better than Colon was.
Me too, but hey, listen, I mean, they signed Cologne to that deal, and he just ate a lot of innings, and that was not a pun. He was just he had a rubber arm, and he was good too. Like that was I was a little skeptical of that signing when it happened, but it was a good signing.
He was an all-star.
Yeah, he was.
2016.
He was.
Crazy.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to take the first pick on catcher. I
Okay.
got to make sure I get my guy here. Rod Barajas,
Ah,
2010.
good one. Good one.
His stats that year just cracked me up. I had to put this down here. Through the first 2 months of the season, Barajas hit 269, 292 on base, 552 slugging, 11 home runs. Then he had one home run over his next 107 plate appearances, hit well below the Mendoza line, and was claimed off waivers in August. An incredible start to what became a very short Mets Legends career there.
Yeah, he had that he had like that walk-off home run at Citi Field too at one point. That's like what I remember him most for.
Yep.
Like it was like early in the season, I remember. He had that walk-off home run.
It was a weekend where him and Henry Blanco went
Henry
off.
Blanco. Yeah. What a catching tandem.
I'll never forget that weekend. Who's your pick for your opening day catcher here?
All right, so this is a guy I don't even know much about, and I was telling Ryan before the podcast that I've learned a lot of the Mets opening day lineups of recent history from playing the Sporkle quiz where they have the last 30 lineups. So a guy that I always remember is Tim Spear.
Tim
Spear. Had one opening day start for the Mets as a catcher in the early 90s. Or maybe it wasn't even in the early 90s. I think it was like the mid to late 90s. Know nothing about him. Don't know why he started. I guess he was kind of like he was in that time period like between Todd Hundley and Mike Piazza, I think. So like probably they didn't have a solid solution behind the plate. So Tim Spear is my guy.
Why don't you give me your first baseman too? We're going to kind of snake it. So we'll go for first base now.
All right. Adrian Gonzalez.
That was my number 2 pick.
Okay, cool. I'm glad that we didn't overlap on that one. There was some good first base options, but I went with Adrian Gonzalez because like everyone knows he was a Met, but I forgot that he started opening day for them.
Yeah.
So Adrian Gonzalez, a real Mets legend.
Yeah, him and James Loney, sneaky good in their little Met stints. I have Mike Jacobs, who we talked about before we hit record.
Okay.
Just because I forgot he came back to the Mets. I mean, if you remember, he hit the ground running as a rookie, gets traded for Delgado to the point where I was actually a little sad that the Mets were losing this rookie that was awesome until I was like, oh, wow. Delgado ends up being pretty damn good.
Yeah.
But I did not remember Jacobs came back in 2010, made an opening day start, played 7 games, and was never heard from again.
He was kind of like he kind of reminds me of like Ike Davis almost, where it was like they kind of came out guns blazing, had some power, but they also had these like monstrous swings where there was a lot of holes in their game. And both kind of fizzled out. But yeah, what did Jacobs hit like 4 home runs in his first 4 games or something like that? He had like some crazy thing like that. I have a signed ball of his somewhere. I remember getting it at a baseball card show, like probably around that time, like 2007, 2006 maybe. maybe even before that. But I remember being like so stoked that I got that ball because I thought he was going to be such a stud.
Yep. He did have a good year with the Marlins. He was part of an infield that I think all four of them hit 30 or something like that with Jorge Cantu and Dan
He was,
Ugla and Hanley. All right, my second baseman, Willie Randolph, 1992. Only
yeah.
year with the Mets, last year of his career, and of course, future manager of the 2006 Mets.
Willie Randolph, that's a good one. I think a lot of people forget that he was actually a player on the Mets too.
Yeah.
I have some cards of his from back in the day when he was in Met too, like in the racing stripe unis. My second baseman is Ricky Gutierrez, 2004 opening day starter.
Not even on my board.
Yeah, Ricky Gutierrez. Don't like it's so weird because at that point I feel like we're sentient baseball beings, but I don't remember Ricky Gutierrez really at all.
Me neither.
I don't think he
It's
was on
a,
the team for that long.
it's a good legendary name, though.
Yeah.
We will have more of my conversation with Rob Piersall in just a minute. But first, I want to tell you that this episode is brought to you by Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. So why endure the often pointless and seemingly intimidating questioning and wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts on their computer, choosing only the brand their warehouse happens to carry, when instead you can get access to rockauto.com at home or in your pocket on your phone, and you could save 30%, 50%, maybe even 100% more for the exact same amount of parts from your chain store or car dealership. RockAuto.com is a family business that has been serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. Their prices are reliably low for every customer. Go to their easy-to-use website today and find the solution to your auto part needs. And when you're there, make sure you put in Locked On in their How'd You Hear About Us box so they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliable low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. RockAuto.com. Shortstop. Who do you got at shortstop?
I have Ray Sanchez, 2003. And Ray Sanchez is probably best known for getting a haircut, allegedly getting a haircut mid-game during the 2003 season. Like, I don't know if that actually happened or if it was a rumor, but he, after the game, was like, no, I did not get my haircut during the game or whatever. It's like, how do you have to dismiss these allegations? Where does this even come from?
Didn't Pete shave mid-game?
Yes.
Oh, I
Yes.
remember that. He got out and just said, I'm shaving.
Yeah.
Change the juju up.
Yeah.
My shortstop, Wilmer Flores, 2015. I
Oh
mean,
yeah, yeah. It's
I had
amazing.
to.
It's amazing that Wilmer Flores ever played shortstop because that guy had no range whatsoever.
It's crazy to me that, I think Mets fans have to appreciate where we're at now with Lindor, because I remember actually being okay with Flores at shortstop because I'd watched just the absolute just no offense for years with Omar Cantanilla and Ruben Tejada. And it was just like, all right, well, just get a bat in there, whatever. Who cares if he can't play? But yeah, that has to be one of the worst double play combinations defensively of all time. Wilmer Flores and Daniel Murphy.
Oh yeah, just up the middle, like no strength up the middle whatsoever. I mean, Juan Lagares in center field kind of helped redeem the middle of the diamond, but man, that double play combo, they must have. I haven't looked at their numbers, but their combined like defensive run saved must be terrible.
Yeah, I've not checked
Terrible.
either. Who is your third baseman?
My third baseman was Jose Reyes. Jose Reyes, because he started at third base, and I think most people don't remember that.
I didn't even catch it. What was
Sorry?
it? 20? I said I didn't even catch it when I was going through that. 2018 or something like that.
It was either 2017 or 2018. I want to say it was 2018 because
Okay.
because they had Ahmed Rosario at that point. So
Yeah.
that's totally what it was. 2018 because they had Rosario, so Reyes got shifted over to third, and God was he terrible.
He was. My third baseman is Ty Wigington.
The man, I love Ty.
He's the only person on my list who started multiple opening days for the Mets, 03 and 04. But he was one of my favorites. I remember, kind of similar to Mike Jacobs, I was upset that this kid David Wright was taking Ty Wigginton's job.
Me
And
too.
then David Wright was, my favorite player of all time. So
It's funny because you and I are the same age, so I think that it's just funny because you and I have a lot of the same like memories. Like 'cause we were young, we were kids when these guys got traded. So it's like you get attached to your players.
Yeah.
And yeah. So just a quick anecdote about Ty Wigginton. I met him at a baseball card show with my dad years ago when he was still a Met. Obviously, it was probably 03, maybe 04. And I remember I met him and I told him, I go, hey Ty, I go, tell Jose Reyes I said hello. Because Reyes was my favorite player. He had just come up. And Wigginton was probably just like, shut up, kid. I'm not telling Reyes anything.
Yeah. Something tells me that Ty Wingington and Jose Reyes might not have gotten along. I don't know what it is. I just don't feel like those guys would have vibed. I don't know.
Nah, it was I feel like Wigginton probably had a little bit of a strong personality. I don't know
He
what it
seemed
is.
like
But
it. I think that's what I'm thinking. I feel like he
yeah,
was a little standoffish. But then
yeah,
again, this is me remembering, when I was 8 years old. So who knows?
exactly. He was mad when the Mets traded him. I remember like he was mad that like Wright was supplanting him at third base and he got traded.
Doubles
So
machine, Ty Wingington.
yeah.
Left field, similar to Jose Reyes for you. I had to pick Daniel Murphy here.
Oh yeah, Murphy and Duda. No, wait, maybe it was right field where Duda started. But it's like it's funny to remember those guys playing out of position. I'm sorry if I
So
spoiled
bad.
your right field by any means.
You did not. I did not
Okay,
have Duda right. So yeah,
okay, cool, awesome. Uh,
who's your left fielder?
so there was a few ones that I had to choose between, but I chose Andrew Brown, who started left field 2014.
I don't remember that at all.
Andrew Brown, yeah, and I remember like that was when the Mets still had Las Vegas as their affiliate, and Andrew Brown like got shuttled back and forth to Vegas like a million times. Like how much that must have sucked for him.
Oh my god, I cannot believe they had years of that. Those
So much
flights.
Wilpon, the Wilpons.
Yep, so cheap. The amount of money they were saving. I don't know how much they had to spend on the red eyes. Center field. Who do you have in center field?
I'm curious to see if this one we're going to have overlap. I feel like we might. I picked Colin Cowgill.
Yes.
Yeah.
Overlap, which is good. That we
Yeah.
might only have one overlap, and it's Colin Cowgill.
Yep.
Opening day legend.
Yes.
Absolute opening
Yes.
day legend.
That grand slam off of Brad Brock when Brad Brock was on the San Diego Padres.
The whole thing, the legend of Colin Cowgill is that he was good in spring training. He was like, I think he was a Rule 5 pick, or he's either Rule 5 or just like just a random free agent they picked up. But he came out of nowhere, won a job in the opening day roster, was the opening day center fielder. And for a day, we went to bed at night thinking Colin Cowgill was going to be the answer at center field for the foreseeable future. And he was
Yeah.
off the team by May, I think.
Oh yeah, he was atrocious. He got cut early. But yeah, I was like, I like Cowgill. He's a gritty player. Like he's got this this little pop in his bat, and then like that was the extent of his Mets legendom.
Sneaky 5-tool player that really wasn't. I definitely think now. So it was funny. We were going back for will we have overlap? What should we do? I think it's perfect that our overlap was Colin Cowgill, and he should be batting leadoff in both of our Mets legend lineups, I think.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
All right, my right fielder, Jeff Francoeur.
Oh, I love Frenchie. Love Frenchie. One of my all-time favorites. Had a Jeff Francoeur shirt back in the day. And it was weird because it was like a beige shirt. I don't know why the Mets were selling beige shirts, but I used to have a beige Jeff Francoeur shirt.
Oh man, I'm jealous. I mean,
Yeah,
Frenchie was the man. I'm pretty sure he's doing games for the Braves now on the broadcast, and I think he's actually pretty good. I might want to actually listen. If I find out Jeff Francoeur is doing a Mets game, I might actually switch over and listen to the Braves broadcast this year.
yeah, you should. Francoeur's the man. I loved him. He was like not great, but there's just something about him that I really liked.
He was on a team in 2010. I want to actually read the 2010 opening day lineup. I got
please
it here.
do.
It's so bad.
Yeah.
Rod Barajas at catcher, Mike Jacobs at first. I have 3 guys on this team. Luis Castillo at second, David Wright, Alex Cora was the shortstop, Jason Bay left field, Gary Matthews in center, Francoeur in right, and poor Johan Santana with no run support. Man, that team was bad. And Francoeur was just one of the more entertaining players on that team.
That was like that and like the 2011 team were just like the pits. Like those teams just both were so bad. But 2010 is like really like I feel like the apex of it where it's like Yeah, Gary Matthews. Your middle play, your double play combo is Luis Castillo and Alex Cora on opening day. I mean, come on. Like, that's I forgot Castillo was even on the 2010 Mets. How did he last that long?
He had a good flick. Actually, I think 3 years in a row.
Yeah.
28 through 2010 as the opening day second baseman.
Oh God, he was so bad.
Yeah.
Anyway, my right fielder was Eric Valent.
Eric Valent.
Yeah,
Close it out.
who hit for the cycle in 2004 against the Montreal Expos at Olympic Stadium.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't remember him either. All right. Well, those were our legendary opening day lineups. You can go to Twitter at Mets Legends, and we're going to have a poll up. You can vote on which lineup you think is better. And we'll continue throughout the season doing legendary content on Thursdays with Rob Piersall. So thanks again for joining me.
Yeah, thank you, man. Always a pleasure.
And go Mets today, opening day. Let's see if
Let's
they get a
go
win.
Mets.
Bullpen game, maybe? We're recording this on Tuesday. It might be a bullpen game.
Maybe. Anibal Sanchez is the opening starter for the
He got the
Nationals.
nod? Did he get the nod? Wow.
Yeah, Anibal
That's
Sanchez.
sad.
Dude, their line. I'll let you go after this. But their infield is Josh Bell, Alcides Escobar, and then like. Man,
Michael Franco and Cesar Hernandez.
Yes. Thank you so much for bailing me out because I would have totally blanked. But that team might lose 100 games this year. That team legitimately might lose 100 games this year.
They could lose 110. I wouldn't be surprised.
Oh.
So the Mets got to take advantage here. 4-game series. The rare time where you might have an edge as a bullpen game because they might be starting Anibal Sanchez. We'll see what happens.
All right, let's go Mets.
That's going to be all for today's edition of Locked On Mets. Hopefully the Mets get a nice big win on opening day and can get their season started off right. As always, thank you for listening. Make sure you follow, rate, and review wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at Finkelstein Ryan. Follow the show at Locked On Mets. Thank you for making Locked On Mets your first listen every day. Now for your second listen, check out Locked On MLB. Paul Francis Sullivan is the host, but we call him Sully, and he'll get you ready for everything going on today for opening day. So make sure you follow Locked On MLB wherever you get podcasts.